Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, UK and US governments issue a statement about Yemen. The United Nations Special Envoy Hans Grunberg is in Paris to discuss Yemen conflict. Save the Children organization says hundreds of civilians killed in Hodeidah and Taiz recently. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. This is the English news with me, Rana Swaylam. The United States, United Kingdom, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates issued a statement on the humanitarian situation in Yemen. Ambassadors of the four countries to Yemen expressed concern about the grave humanitarian situation closely linked to the ongoing military escalation, the Houthis' rejection of the ceasefire and the country's economic situation. The Quad expressed deep concern about the continued Houthi assault on Ma'rib and stressed the need for an immediate ceasefire. The Quad nations affirmed their commitment to a comprehensive political solution for the conflict in Yemen and expressed full support for the UN Special Envoy efforts. To that end, the United Nations Special Envoy Hans Grunberg visited France and met with senior French officials. During the meeting, Grunberg stressed that an inclusive political process in Yemen requires joint international support to the UN efforts. Meanwhile, the French ambassador to Yemen, Jean-Marie Safa, said that only the leader of the Houthis can push the group towards peace and abandon military option, which is leading the country to a dead end. In an interview with the Yemen Future News website, the French ambassador said that Houthis cannot say that they are defending Yemen and Yemenis while killing them every day. Safa stressed that Yemen can never be ruled by one party. He reaffirmed his country's support for peace, noting that his country, by presiding the European Union next month, will continue to urge all parties to respect the international humanitarian law. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ahmed bin Mubarak, met the head of the International Organization for Migration's mission to Yemen, Christa Rottensteiner. During the meeting, they discussed future activities, including programs to support the displaced in Ma'rib and Hodeidah, and issues related to illegal immigration to Yemen. Bin Mubarak stressed the importance of redoubling the efforts to cover the increasing needs of the displaced in Ma'rib, that is subjected to continuous aggression by Houthis. For her part, Rottensteiner reviewed the organization's plans and issues related to its activities. In Riyadh, the United Nations Relief Chief Martin Griffiths discussed with the Saudi ambassador to Yemen, Mohammed Al-Jaber, the humanitarian efforts in the country. During the meeting, the two diplomats stressed support for humanitarian efforts, especially in Ma'rib, amid Houthi current escalation. Further, the issue of Safert oil tanker was addressed and stressed the need for paving the way to UN inspecting teams to access the aging tanker. The U.S. Navy tested a laser weapon and destroyed a floating target in the Mid-East, a system that could be used to counter booby-trapped drone boats deployed by Houthi rebels in the Red Sea. The test saw the USS Portland test-fire its laser weapon at the target in the Gulf of Aden. The Navy's Fifth Fleet, that is based in the Middle East, described in a statement that the laser successfully engaged the target. The Gulf of Aden sits along the southern coast of Yemen. Save the Children organization has warned that over 700 civilians have been killed and injured in Hodeidah and Taiz recently. This comes due to a military escalation in those areas, despite warring parties signing the Stockholm Agreement. The following report has more details.
More than 700 people have been killed or injured in Hodeidah and Taiz so far this year, despite warring parties signing the Stockholm Agreement in 2018 to help avert military escalation in the two regions and safeguard the flow of goods and humanitarian aid. However, 3 years into the agreement, civilians continue to bear the brunt of the conflict and humanitarian needs remain high. October marked the deadliest month this year for Yemen, with 358 people killed or injured, a 53% increase from September. Sudden shifts in areas of control have also contributed to the escalation, particularly in Hodeidah, with worrying reports of summary executions, killing and injuring, displacement, and lack of basic services. Children and their families living in Taiz remain particularly vulnerable to upticks in violence, as more than 400 people have been killed in the region so far in 2021. Active front lines in close proximity to densely urban populations put children and their families in Taiz at constant risk. This year, Save the Children has supported the treatment of 138 children, like those who have been victims of attacks in Taiz and Hodeidah. Without all parties to the conflict taking the Stockholm Agreement seriously, more children will become victims of Yemen's brutal war in 2022. Save the Children is warning. Save the Children also calls on the international community to ensure accountability for all violations and abuses against children. Through the urgent reinstatement of an international independent monitoring and reporting mechanism on Yemen, and the establishment of an adequately resourced and sufficiently staffed international investigative mechanism for the country. Save the Children has been working in Yemen since 1963, implementing programs in education, child protection, health and nutrition, water and sanitation, and emergency response across most of the country.
To the west coast, the joint forces liberated new areas west of Maghbana in Taiz Governorate. A military source said that the joint forces took fierce confrontations with the rebels, using medium and heavy weapons, adding that the rebels suffered heavy losses during those clashes. Turning to Ma'rib, fierce battles erupted between the government forces backed by tribes and Houthis on the southern fronts. It was reported that government forces' artillery targeted Houthi rebels and inflicted heavy losses among them. Sources added that the government forces advanced and regained sites during those battles. To that end, the coalition thwarted a Houthi attack and carried out 19 operations targeting the rebels. The coalition confirmed it destroyed 40 military vehicles in Ma'rib and killed over 250 Houthi militants. In the west coast, the coalition targeted 4 military vehicles and 15 militants in 4 air raids. In Amran, locals said that Houthis imposed a siege in Al-Ha'it 2 weeks ago. According to the American Center for Justice Monitors, about 20 vehicles carrying dozens of armed men on board raided the village and blew up a house after looting its contents, assaulting the residents of the village and causing panic to women and children. The center monitored the arrest of 54 people from the village by Houthi gunmen, including 5 children, without any legal justification. Local authority in Mekha announced the readiness of the recently installed electrical station to operate with a production capacity of 10 megawatts. Director General Bassem Al-Zuraiki said that electricity service will be delivered to all beneficiaries. Al-Zuraiki called on the government to provide necessary support to operate the station. Disabled people strive to cope with the life despite atrocities of the war. In Aden, a social initiative called I Have a Hope has been engaged in supporting those with disabilities by trying to fuse them in the society and make them productive. More details on this story are within this report.
I Have Hope, an initiative established by the National Network to advocate for the rights of disabled people. An event that carries several messages. It aims to support and advocate people with disabilities and enable them to practice their activities and creativity.
The Network of Displaced People commemorates the occasion of the International Human Rights Day that falls on the 10th of December every year. Our country celebrates it as part of its commitment. This is going through a difficult circumstances. We thank the Network of Disabled People for organizing this event, and there are new upcoming projects that we are still working on.
A community event aimed at highlighting improving the capabilities of a wide segment of displaced people to be an active partner in the society. Hero of the Story, a title that the event held to reflect and present the disabled people as heroes who have creativity, ambitions, and success stories. Despite all the difficulties that were preventing them from achieving it, they managed to make their way with distinction.
We came here today to demonstrate the capabilities of this category, how they integrate into society, their ability to have a dialogue, and their multiple talents, whether their educational abilities or their technical and professional skills. We aim to present a good image to the world to tell them we exist, we can discuss our issues, we can present ourselves, and we are able to make political, social, and economic decisions and build peace.
Those are not disabled people. They are better than many others and they can achieve great things, such as Wahi Luqman and the poet Abdullah al-Baraduni. These people prove that Yemen is not a weak country. No matter what the war does, nothing will defeat the will of people.
Despite the difficulties and challenges, people with special needs show pioneering models in the society. Their disabilities did not prevent them from being creative, distinguished, and reaching the fore, which is what the stakeholders should pay attention to and take care of this segment in order to be active partners in the society.
Coming next. After historic victory, divided Yemenis find a moment of unity in sports more than in politics.
اضطرينا أن نغادر من ذي وزحنا.
الله يستبدلكم يا محويتني الله يستبدل.
Welcome back. In Aden, the Yemeni government called on Aden University faculty members to end their 10-day strike over the deteriorating economic situation. Ma'in Abdel Malik met with the Coordination Council of the faculty unions and urged them to resume the educational process, stressing that his government would work to meet their demands within the available resources. Minister of Social Affairs and Labor, Mohammed Al-Zawahiri, warned from consequences of transferring internationally funded emergency cash transfer project to the Social Fund for Development in Sana'a. He said that managing the exchange of the value of the project, which is in hard currency, away from the central bank in Aden, will contribute to the deterioration of the currency and the collapse of the national economy. The crumbling economic situation has reached an alarming level. Despite the government efforts to help recover it, this time the warning of such a deplorable situation has come on the words of the first man in the government concerned with finance. The following report has more details.
Yemen's economy is facing formidable challenges and difficulties which leave it on the verge of collapse, the finance minister warned. Cabinet member said that the decline in the value of national currency against foreign currencies is one of the biggest challenges. Salim bin Buraik's remarks came during a workshop on building the capacities of the finance ministry held in the Saudi capital Riyadh. He called for an urgent assistance by Saudi Arabia, reiterating that his country is in dire need for support more than ever before. Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, United States and the United Kingdom all released a joint statement underlining that efforts to address economic stability are fundamental to reducing humanitarian need. They emphasized the need for all political actors to work together in support of the government and the Prime Minister's plan for recovery and reform. Yemen has reshuffled the Central Bank Board of Directors to address the current economic situation. This decision was globally received. It was addressed during the last session of the United Nations Security Council, where the United Kingdom called on the cabinet to carry immediate economic reforms.
We're encouraged by the new appointment of Ahmed bin Ahmed Ghalib al-Maghbi as the central bank Yemen governor. But the government of Yemen must commit to carrying out necessary economic reforms now.
Likewise, the United States said that countries can seize this moment to support Yemen's economy.
In addition, like the UK, we are encouraged by the December 6th appointment of a new Central Bank of Yemen governor and chairman of the board, as well as other new board members. We hope these appointments serve as a step forward in addressing the economic instability that is deepening humanitarian suffering and will push forward needed reforms. True progress cannot be sustained, however, without additional resources. We hope countries can seize this moment to support Yemen's economy and bring urgently needed relief to its people.
War-torn Yemen has long been mired in a 7-year devastating conflict. This war led to a sharp deterioration in the economic situation, where the Yemeni rial recorded a historic 1,700 to the dollar, stalking inflation. Yemenis in government-controlled areas hopes that current economic reforms and international support could reduce their humanitarian needs.
Yemen, a country divided by politics and devastated by war, lived a rare moment of unity last Monday. It was the eve when the young national team won the West Asia Junior Football Championship. Huge celebrations marked major cities inside and outside the country. That was a real moment of happiness after years of brutal war. The following report looks at the significance of that moment in the lives of Yemenis.
After 7 years of division, Yemenis united last Monday over a rare bit of good news in a country ravaged by a deadly civil war. Under-15 boys football team won the East Asia Junior Football Championship, defeating neighbouring Saudi Arabia for the title. The win elicited a cascade of national pride across the country, from the north, where the Houthi militias are in power, to the south, which remains under the control of the internationally recognized government. In cities that have in recent years been rocked by airstrikes, bombings and shelling, people spilled into the street in celebration, seizing the opportunity to relish, if just for a moment, the forgotten taste of uninhibited joy. Celebration escalated so dramatically, especially in Sana'a, that the people were advised to stay indoors and avoid open spaces because of the risk of stray bullets of Houthis. Streets were packed and all people were chanting, "With souls, with blood, we redeem you, Yemen." There was no place for politics. Yemenis were all one, in the north, in the south, everywhere. The youth team overcame huge obstacles to secure the win, having lived about half their lives in a country beset by violence. To conclude, Yemen has been submerged in a war for about 7 years. Houthi rebels took control of the capital Sana'a in 2014, eventually forcing the government to relocate to Aden. The Monday evening win offered civilians much-needed relief from the hardships of daily life in a war zone.
The United Nations Refugee Agency said that the rate of Yemeni families needing protection has increased. The Commission stated that the number increased as a result of fears of arrest and exposure to violence, especially those affecting women and girls, compared to the previous year. The UN agency showed that 32% of families have members who need different protection due to distress and concerns about arrest or detention and cases of violence affecting women and girls, compared to 20% in the previous year. To Health, the International Organization for Migration, said it started a vaccination campaign against COVID-19 for migrants stranded in Yemen, with the aim of vaccinating about 7,500 migrants at response points in the governorates of Aden and Ma'rib. The organization called for more efforts to be made to protect vulnerable groups of the population by intensifying efforts to vaccinate people on the move. Christel Rottensteiner, IOM chief, said that there are still not enough doses to protect everyone in Yemen from disease, so more support from the international community to provide the country with adequate vaccines would save lives. The Minister of Health, Qasim Buhaybih, warned from the outbreak of the fourth wave of the COVID pandemic, calling on citizens to get vaccinated. To that end, the National Committee Against Coronavirus recorded 5 new cases of the virus. Also, 3 recovered cases were recorded and no death. With the current updates, the total confirmed cases are 10,086, including 1,973 deaths and 6,958 cases of recovery. Here's a reminder of the main headlines. Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, UK and US governments issue a statement about Yemen. The United Nations Special Envoy Hans Grunberg is in Paris to discuss Yemen conflicts. Save the Children organization says hundreds of civilians killed in Hodeidah and Taiz recently. This is the end of the news. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.